Howdy, folks. Welcome back to the Practical Microservices stream. It's been a week. Sorry about that. Anyway, we're here now and got some good stuff, I think. Let me pull this up real quick. So, got this email. Oh, I did the thing I didn't want to do. I knew this would happen. 1 second while I fix something with Notepad. I have a text document that populates that thing you see in the lower left of what we're doing. And I took a little note to myself of something that could be extracted potentially into a YouTube video. And I was like, oh, I just need to do this quickly. And so I put it in that document and then save that document. So now the lower left is completely messed up. Oops. Just need to get this text to a more permanent location. Anyway, yeah, so I do this daily list. Has lots of good information in it. And today's was really good, I think. Kind of, I don't know, I was frustrated reading. There was that, just realized my dates have been wrong in these logs too. There was a big outage with the FAA, my bad, and one of their systems, and an article was released where the leadership had traced it down to a mistake that a particular employee made. And I think that is bogus, and that is management covering their own behinds. Management authorized the conditions that made that error possible. So let's see, stream, extract. Anyway, yeah, so when managers, I mean, what kind of a root cause analysis is it where you say like, oh, this thing happened because somebody did something? Like, gee, you think you need to go a little bit deeper there and examine why was said thing allowed to happen in the first place. Anyway, what are we doing today? Resuming, integrating Rails and Eventide. There we go. That should show up correctly on the screen now. Look at that. Happy about that. That's good. Oh, neat. This looks like a spam message from Spurious This. So I'm going to deal with that. Spurious This, you may be a real person with good intentions, but that is not the way to lead with a message. Okay. All right. Yeah. So I don't know. My thoughts on that. And I like, it wasn't just a rant fest. That wasn't the goal of the article. It was to prompt you as a reader. How much of this am I doing in my organization? So that's a thing to read. Practicalmicroservices.com/posts, FAA, NOTAM, and failing to learn. All right, next up, we have a new meetup scheduled for this Thursday. Meetup wants me to log in. Not going to do that. Oh, neat. I spelled meetup wrong. And we're going to talk about what we talked about on the stream over the past week or so, getting the final touches on that one. The concurrency issue that we were seeing. We're going to talk through that in a much more condensed format. So if you missed some of the days, or if it was spread out so much like, oh, is this the right thing to do, that you missed the forest for the trees there, we'll get this in a much more condensed version. Anyway, just wanted to get those announcements out there. All right. Coming back to this Rails integration, I do not remember one bit where we left off. Looks like we have a passing test, so let me just run that again real quick. Or we don't. What do we have going on here? Databases don't exist, so we need to do Rails DB create, I believe. And now can we run the test? Do we need to run migrations? No, because we don't have any in the Rails app yet. The only table that we're working with, we're not even working with the table yet. We're still just writing to the message store. And I think where we were was we got that message store right succeeding. I'm going to grab my mouse here because I'd rather use that than trackpad. So let's have a look at our local message DB instance. And result from having run that test is this panel is way too big. No, that's not the result. We did get an identity command written to an identity stream. I'm gonna run that test again real quick. So I think we were using random identifiers. Fantastic. Okay, great. So let's close the what did I just do? Let's close the Docker Compose information. And this is the test over here on the right. And over here on the left, we have the register user active model that I'm using to encapsulate capturing all that information, getting access to the validations and being able to work with Rails's forms. And then this is our controller where we are receiving the params submitted from the form, and then we puts them out. So I would expect, there we go. That is this stuff here, the action controller parameters. So we're getting the ID, the email, and the password that was submitted. Okay, that looks good. And we use those to fill out the register command. And it looks like I put a little temporary shim in here just so that we could get some text to put in to the password hash. Obviously, our final password hash won't be just repeating the actual password in plain text. We'll put in assertions for that. And then we have the thing that lets these params through. And that is the work that this registration flow would need to do. Okay, cool. So I need to take note of that. Otherwise, I will forget. So let's see. We're resuming the Rails integration and working test that writes a command. Guessing we need assertions. Write the rest of the assertions. Hey, pass me. You almost got it right. I like when I say next. Need to write those assertions. So that's what we're looking for. So what are we going to assert on? So we're doing a puts register.inspect, which is how we're getting the actual register event that was written. I see. Okay. So what do we do here? We use the message store Postgres session. We build one of those. And then we get the stream name that we expect. And we do a select from that stream. And we're doing this way. I think I have to imagine what I was thinking 2 weeks ago. It would be, don't want to necessarily pull in all the pieces of Eventide into this test, but at the same time, why not? Like, we could use the message store Postgres reader rather than doing a session in this raw thing, because what we want is the last message in the stream. So what happens if I come here to the Eventide code, and if we come down to let's see, message store Postgres, that's what we want. And so we would want to get the last thing from a stream, and you have a dependency of session, and we can pass one in. That's nice. If we have a session, could we, I'm wondering, so the way that these modules are structured here, you have message store Postgres, sorry, there would be a message store module whose directories would match what we have here in the message store Postgres. So right down here, we have message store Postgres, get stream last. So within the message store gem, I'm expecting to see get stream last as well. So if we come here to, where are we? Message store get stream last. There we are. And this is a module. Does it have? It does. It gives us this call here. That's the instance actuator that we want, a class level one. And there it is. And we can pass in the session to it. So yeah, in our test. Oh, hey, Egg Dev. Thank you for the raid and welcome viewers who came along. I don't know if you've been to this stream before, but build microservices projects. And right now I'm resuming I wrote a book called Practical Microservices, and there was a code project in there, and I built that in JavaScript with some homegrown framework thing. And I'm taking that code and converting it over to using the Ruby-based Eventide project. Yes, and so we are trying to get the HTTP layer of that project working using Ruby on Rails and trying to integrate that well with Eventide. And they both have very different philosophies of things. I'm more partial to Eventides, but we're making this work. So we did a message store Postgres get stream last. By virtue of the module that it includes right here, we have a class level actuator that we can pass a session into. And we can't get a straight up message out of this, I don't think, because the low level reader wouldn't know anything about messages anyway. And that's what happens in the consumers. It uses the low level reader to get the messages, and then they are converted into the actual message classes right before they're dispatched to the handler, which is what we're doing here in the Rails code. So we get the messages in question, and then we do, oh, wait a second. Looks like that's what I was already doing. I see. So we're checking to see how many messages were written, and then we do use the get stream last to retrieve the one message. Do we need both of those? Yes, because we may write more than one message and that wouldn't be right. Seems like kind of a silly way to do it when we could just ask for a count. We'll just call it C, because count may end up being some sort of a reserved word. Now, I don't even know if what I did there was even necessary. So Postgres count star versus count one. I've heard that the latter gives better performance because you don't actually have to load the entire row. Well, let's see. Oh, okay. Assuming any of this is true, which it's probably more true than the thing that I read, so... Oh, I see. Huh, okay. Well, I'll do count star, because it doesn't mean what I thought it meant before. All right, so we're making sure we're only writing one message, and then we're getting what that message is, and now we need to inspect some things. So what we would expect is that the ID matches. We would want the email to match, and the password hash. Now that one's tricky. I know for a fact we don't want to just put the plain text password into the database. Even if you're doing event sourcing, that's still not a good idea. In fact, it's probably less of a good idea because you typically don't erase things from a message store. But the question is, do we write a test that makes sure that what we produced is a valid bcrypt hash? That would be smart. I suppose we could... Well, what would we do? Because the hash value is going to look completely different than the plain text. Obviously, that's one of the reasons we use a hash. So do we then just re-implement the same hashing code? Or maybe the Ruby bcrypt library has a way that you can check to see if the supplied value works for that hash. So we would do the verification side of it. So let's have a look at Ruby bcrypt or bcrupt, which sounds like be corrupt, and we don't want to be that. So let's see. Not doing any of that. Bcrypt Ruby in general. So let's see here. Password create, blah, blah, blah. Interesting. Okay, so calling create on it, you give it the plain text and it hands back the string that is the hash. That's kind of neat that the example ends in hey. I wonder if that was intentional. Like, did they keep hashing passwords until they got one that ended in hey? Which is more or less how Bitcoin works. You keep hashing until you get a certain number of zeros in front of everything. Not hey though. Maybe they should have made it hey instead. That would have been way cooler. Anyways, then you instantiate a new bcrypt password using the result here, and then you ask equals equals. That's actually quite straightforward. So we're going to go with that. So our first assertion would be what? We would want to assert. And what is the order of the arguments here? Is it expected, actual, or actual expected? Every testing library does it differently, which isn't true because if there are two things, there's only two ways that they can be ordered. So by your third testing library, you're guaranteed to have a duplicate of an order that already happened. So let's find out. Rails integration test assert. Actually, when you're just calling assert, it doesn't matter. I'm not going to do assert equals and all of that. Assert is good enough. So I'd like to assert that the register commands, is it identity ID or user ID? I don't remember. So let's go to the identity component. Check out the register message, and we are calling it identity ID, which I think is a break from the book code, if I remember correctly. Something, where would that be? That would be in the registration application, I think. Register users, it was called. And writing the register command. Yeah, we called it a user ID in the book. By we, I mean me. That's not your fault. That's my fault. So coming back to the Rails application, then we would expect the register dot identity ID to equal the identity ID. This test should pass. It did. That's great. I'm going to remove these puts messages here because I got a feeling for what that output is, and now that just pollutes the console window. Great. That passed. Okay, so then we would also want to assert that the register.email is equal to what? Did we set that? We did right here. However, really needed to pull that out into a separate variable so that we could use it in multiple places. So let's go ahead and do that. And then we can, bummer. I removed the content of that from the clipboard. All right, and then by the magic of Ruby's new hash syntax, I say new hash syntax as if that hasn't been around for ages and I'm the one who's coming back. But anyway, so we've got the email there. That's great. And then let's pull out the password right here. There we go. Those are all pulled out and now passed in. Excellent. So we would expect that to equal email. Sweet. Now the password hash, I was thinking we would want to do something that's like register.password hash does not equal password. However, the real test that we're going to do is to make sure that the hash result that we have in the message will pass bcrypt's check. And the plain text password won't pass for the check, I don't think. Let us verify that assumption before we go along with it. So we do have bcrypt already. So if we say Rails console, that won't work. So we would need to require bcrypt. Fantastic. So bcrypt password.create hello. I have to spell things correctly. So there is our hash password. So now, according to this thing, by this thing meaning the documentation we read just a minute ago, we can say password.new, pass that in, and does p equal, what did I say it was? Hello? I did say hello. Do you equal hello? You do. Neat. Now the question is bcrypt password.new. I wonder if this will just straight up give an error because that's clearly not a valid bcrypt password. Yep, invalid hash. Okay. So yeah, if we manage to keep the plain text password in there, then let's see. We can just pass in the register.password hash. Now, and then we would want to assert that the bcrypt is equal to the password. Now this should fail at line 41, possibly sooner because we maybe didn't require bcrypt into here. But assuming bcrypt is required, when we do the assertion, or sorry, when we try to construct this bcrypt password object, it should fail because the plaintext hash, the plaintext password is not a valid hash. And right now we have it just coded to send the password hash. To call this, and when we ask for the password hash, it returns the plain text password. I am messing those words up bad, so we'll see. Invalid hash. Cool. That's what I wanted to see. So then to make that test pass, what we would have to do is this class needs access to bcrypt, so we will require it. And we'll say bcrypt password dot create password, and then we could do something like password hash. Oh, why is that? So that within the same request, we get the same hash for it. You can, like when you do a hash with bcrypt, let me verify before I say this, because that would be embarrassing. Wouldn't be the first time, but you know, we're trying to grow up here. So let's see. Do it once, do it a second time, you get a different value. Because it uses a different salt, there's a little bit of randomness that goes into the creation of the password. That's one of the security mechanisms with it, or the hash rather. So for a given request response cycle, why not just have it be the same? So if we go like that now, I anticipate that the test will pass. And it did. Great. So we have a test proving that our command gets written with what we expect. That's good stuff. So let's see. Now we do the HTTP parts of this. How did it work in the book? I don't remember. So let's see here. We go to index, register user. Those are the actions. I want the handler. The thinking behind this was that the handlers were the bits that handle HTTP. So some request came in. There are data fields that I need to extract out of that to feed into the thing that actually does what I'm after doing. So these actions in theory could be used in a command line interface or really anything because they're just JavaScript functions. That was the theory behind it. So we got one, then we would do a redirect to this registration complete URL. So that's what we would want to see. So we would expect the response to be a redirect. So we can do that. We post to that path, we expect to get a redirect. I think this will fail because we don't render anything. Yeah, we got a no content response. So let's fix that here. We do the registration, and I do not remember how to do a redirect in Rails, so let's figure that out. I'm just gonna close tabs, Rails controller redirect. Redirect back, redirect options. So you can redirect to a URL, literal to a named URL. You can redirect to a proc. I'm guessing the proc returns. Why would you? A block that will be executed in the controller's context should return any option accepted by redirect to. I wonder what the value of that is over just calling a method somewhere. Don't know. Whatever. So we need a URL to redirect to. What routes do we have in here so far? I'm going to close the model class real quick and then config routes, I believe. And what was it? It was called registration complete. So would it be something like registration complete? And then we map that to like show? Trying to think the Rails conventions with these RESTful routes. RESTful. They have some of the trappings of REST. And I'm not saying whether REST is good and bad, just that what is generally called RESTful is not. Anyway, so in Rails, the Rails world, when you make one of these resources, you then see it by going to the show URL, which is kind of what we're doing in the old code. Like this, I don't know, it's kind of funny, but if you hit that URL, it would show you like, hey, we received your registration. Isn't that great? There was nothing loaded related to your registration there. So let's see. If that's the case, though, I really do want that URL to be in the URL bar there. Oh, man, but it would be nice to not code these string literals all over the place. It's going to be something like that. And as this is coded right now, we would have to redirect to register registration complete. This should pass now. Yeah, but if we try to follow the redirect, it should fail because there is no show action for the register user's controller. No route matches. Yep, that's exactly what it is. Or let's try saving that first and see if that's what we get. Oh, that looks like a syntax error. Sure is a lot to that stack trace. Yeah, because I said 2 and not the symbol 2 like that. That's how that should be. Failure. Action show could not be found. Yeah, that's what we wanted to see there. Okay. But is there a way to like put the show in there, but still have it respond to that URL string? That's what we're doing here. That just ends up becoming, yeah, we're just going to leave it that way. Why do it this way? Because I think a URL that says register/registration complete is nicer for the user than seeing register user/show. Like, neat. Tell me all your technical details. Anyway, here we go. So this would be def show. And now that passes. Did not pass. Why did you not pass? Missing a template. Well, why did that work before? Oh, because it just took the return value, I guess. So what happens if we return hello from that action? It didn't pass. Why did the other one? It was missing a template. Did I put a template in there? Controllers. No, we want views, app views, register users. No, there's... Maybe it just follows different rules for when you post to it. Don't know. But this is the stinky part here. This controller doesn't actually need to do anything at all. Because it's just going to show a static page. Which is all we do here. And thank goodness it's not that much content, because converting these plug templates to ERB has not been the most exciting work we've done in this overall project here. So I still don't like it that in Rails, separation of concerns means separation of technical details. So when you go to make a new controller endpoint, you modify a controller file in app controllers, then you modify a view in app views. I think it would make more sense to have app something to do with registration, and then within there's all the stuff you need for registration, which is incidentally how I did that in Practical Microservices. So app register users has all the code you need to register a user in one place. Things that change together stay together. That is my argument, and I am sticking to it. So let's go here to show.erb, and we will curse how little real estate there is on this screen. Ooh, I did that in the wrong place. That's fine. What is that? Right, this is the existing one. So let's drop this in here. So this is in Pug. Trying to think. You'd render a template in Pug, but how did it know which template to use? Oh, because it says extends. Right. So in Pug, you go to the like leaf node file and say, hey, render this. And then it's that file's job to link you to any other files that it requires. So it says, hey, this is the template that I use. And Rails, it works in the reverse in that from the controller, you're setting which layout you're going to use. And if you don't specify one, it uses the application layout. And then within your template, excuse me, if you're extending the template, well, let's go look at it. So in app, where did I put that? Common templates, here we go. So in the layout here, there is a call, this block content right here. So when we say we're extending this template here, we then do this block content and it inserts it right at that place. I like that mental model a lot more. It fits more with how I think about this, but you know what? It doesn't really matter because we're not using Pug, we're using Rails. So we would need the class alert and the class alert success. You have successfully registered, and then we'll close that paragraph. And then we'll do a similar thing here. And then within this paragraph, we will have an anchor tag. And that was the wrong one to close first. I want it to look like that. I don't understand why you unindented yourself. That was not what I was looking for there, friend. All right, cool. There's our template. So now that we have a template, in theory, this test should pass. Hey, look at that. It did. So then we would expect to have had a successful response to that redirection. And then here's where we check to see if the page looks anything like we expect it to. So I think assert select is saying assert that there is a paragraph somewhere on there with this text in it. But you know what they say about asserting. So let's see, Rails integration test assert select. An assertion that selects elements and makes one or more equality tests. If the first argument is an element, selects all matching elements starting from and including that element and all its children in depth first order. If no element is specified, calling assert select selects from the response HTML unless assert select is called from within an assert select block. When called with the block, passes an array of selected elements. If the response contains two ordered lists, each with 4 list elements, then okay, but in this case, in the example code, block is a string. Page title is welcome. So does it have to entirely match? Or does a partial match count? Let's find out. So you have successfully registered. I think that whole test should pass now. It did. Cool. What happens if we just have you have successfully? Did not pass. Okay. Okay, and it's saying it expects that entire text to be there. Fair? Okay, that's what you want, Rails. That's what you will get. Golden Path test is done. So there's still the test to make sure that that we have to submit an ID and an email address and a password. But so far we were after this one test working. I would like to verify that it works running the app as well. So we have 18 of these commands in here. So if we were to start the identity component, we would end up getting 18 registrations and 18 attempts to send email. Actually, don't think we'd get anything because we haven't actually built said component. Handlers commands. Yes, we haven't actually built the component, so we won't get anything yet. That's okay, but we can make sure that when we run this, we actually put the command in place. Hey, you have successfully registered. And if we come here, we have a 19th. Oh, look at that. The ID is incorrect. Okay, why did that happen? Because hidden field ID appears to have not been set. So let's, instead of going in and fixing it, let's write a test that captures that failure. So we have the register test, password too short test, not an email test. Let's put one in here that is the form rendering correctly. And we can open that file, and we want to copy some of this or all of it, and then we'll delete the parts that we don't need. So we don't need any of the messaging stuff because we're not going to make it that far. In fact, all we want to do is visit. Oh, new test. We already have one for that. All right, save that. Delete it. Close it. And this is the test right here. So when we hit that, if we did assert response success, and then we want to assert select that, we have an input hidden. I'm not sure how this method works. So title, test the content and style. Oh, so we're looking for a body div header. Oh, that's how you do arbitrary things on there with the CSS syntax. Okay, so what we are looking for is an input where the type equals hidden. Did we get that? We did. But we would expect its value to not be nil. The equality test may be one of the following. True is true if at least one element is selected. Interesting. Okay, assert select. What is the equality test? It doesn't actually say what that is. An assertion that selects elements and makes one or more equality tests. If it's an element, selects all matching elements starting from and including that element and all its children in depth first order. If no element is specified, we are specifying an element though. When called with a block, it passes an array of selected elements, and calling assert select from the block with no element specified runs the assertion on the complete set of elements. Huh. Oh, I see. Args is splatted there. And so that's not very well documented second argument that you can pass. So we're doing the string regular expression version. So the text value of at least one element matches that. So if we had a regular expression that just said there was something like a dot star, because I don't have a way to control what the ID is, not with Rails anyway, which is unfortunate. That's what I would want to do, is set the HTTP handler would have a dependency on a random identifier generator. In a test scenario, we would be able to control that explicitly, and then we could make sure that the rendered form has the same UUID. That doesn't seem to be an option for us, though. Unless we do some weird global thing, but I'm not going to do that. I think that is worse than relying on a visual inspection of a rendered page. So let's see if we then, this is embarrassing. Ruby, regular expressions. How do you delimit one? No, in Node, it's backslashes. It is the same. Here we go. Okay, so let's see. What we would want then is, that is a backslash. No, that's a forward slash. It's a forward slash. Okay, that's fine. Could be anything. Needs to be at least one character. Well, now hang on a second. We could get a regular expression for a UUID, couldn't we? Just like that. Of course, what language is that in? C like identifier. Let's ask specifically for a Ruby regular expression. So we could say that is our validator there. Let's see. Might put that someplace else in just a minute, but let's pass that in here. I want this test to fail. And it did fail because it did not match that regular expression. What is that dash mix? I don't know. Okay, so with that feeling, then what we could do is we come to our new form, which is right up where? Here. And we are dropping the ID in there, sure, but The controller, I'm betting, just instantiates one of those. Yes. Yes, here we go. Now when we go to the register user model, nothing's generating the ID. Good, good. So what we could do is define that. Make a UID, which I think we have access to the one that Eventide provides because we pulled in some Eventide stuff. So Eventide project UUID, identifier UUID, and there should just be a random.get. That's what we want. So we would have to require that. Whoops, I forgot. My rebellious nature requires that this be a double quote, like so. And instead of make a UUID, it would be identifier UUID random.get. Now pass or fail, your choice. Why did we fail? We did make a new register user. Yes, we did. Let's put our register user. You know, by making it that method there, I wonder if we overrode. Yeah, so how do you... I would like it to be, excuse me, initialized with one of those. That's not the job of an initializer though, is it? That is the job of a constructor. So I'm thinking of this incorrectly. Can we do this? Instance equals new instance.id equals what we put right here. And then get rid of that. And wonder if that works, because technically this would be violating that, but does Ruby allow that since we are in the same class? Well, it didn't fail. Oh, right. We didn't call it either, did we? Now we're calling it. Okay, so that did not work. Well, we could just leave it as an accessor. That would give us a set method on it. Still not getting anything there. That's strange. Let's have a look at the form when we just go to it. Ah, this is fun. I enjoy this. Inspect our element here, and where is that hidden field? It's right there. Oh. It has a UID in it, so we're putting the right thing in place. So it's just our assertion is incorrect. Oh, I wonder if the way this is working is it's looking for an element input whose inner HTML is that value. But what we actually care about is the particular attribute has that value. I'm guessing that's what it is. So we could give it a do, and within that, we want to find an attribute that matches. I think I saw an example of that. Name equals question mark. No, not name. What am I thinking? The value that we want to equal that. Funny. Nope, that wasn't it either. What did you find? And what does that block pass again? The elements, what do those look like? Because I don't know. So let's say element puts element dot inspect. So we get a Nokogiri attribute. Sure. There is a value there. Name value with value. Da da da. Has a series of attributes. Autocomplete off. Type hidden. Oh, I do wish that this method were better documented. I'm failing to understand it. Yes. Finding the documentation opaque, but perhaps I'm reading it incorrectly. The word attribute doesn't appear, so maybe there are some things here that we can use. That's not quite what I'm looking for. How do you use assert select test for presence of link? Well, hey now, that's what I did. It's possible that regular expression doesn't actually work and that where I copied it from was incorrect. So let's verify that real quick. And we'll grab that UUID right there. And what we can say is to you. Something seems amiss here. What's going on? Like that, or is it like that? I guess it's like that. Nothing. Okay, they're good. Didn't give an error. It might not accept a regular expression at that point. Oh, that's, here we go. Oh, interesting. That is different. Okay, yeah, so that one takes a string and won't treat it as a regular expression, maybe? Okay, I like the way that looks more anyway. So, where your value... Oh, right, gotta use the new syntax. From 2013, 10 years old, roughly. Nope, not the Rails console. We run you and you fail because we have the wrong number of ends in there. And also, you would like a comma to separate your values. Well, we can accommodate that. We've got commas galore. Fantastic. Look at that. Okay. So, whoops. Now we have a test that validates that our form actually has the ID in it. So now if we rerun the Rails server, where'd you go? Oh, I passed it 3 times. Sometimes you press up so many times. Hey, AJ, how's it going, man? Good to see you here. So on my stream, I've been taking my book code and porting it from the hand-rolled JavaScript that I put in the book to using the Ruby-based Eventide project. I'm eating lunch, about to stream yourself. Cool. I'm probably going to wrap in like another 20 minutes or so. So I'll come join you if you started by then for a little bit. Anyway, yeah. So taking the book code and turning it to the Eventide project, because that's what I'm using in my day job. And it's a lot more ergonomic, shall we say, than what I rolled in the book. And it's been fun. I used to do a lot of Rails development back in 2013 is when I switched over to using Node. And so it's just been a fun exercise of remembering how to do Rails, because I'm at that point in the project where I need an HTTP server. We've ported a bunch of components and an aggregator at this point, which I'm trying to change my language to say view data component rather than aggregator. So catch me if I ever say that wrong, like in March. I probably won't talk a lot about the components of microservices though, because it's a talk about idempotence, not messaging in particular. The likelihood of me getting through a whole... I thought so too, where it's been causing some confusion for folks. Like if you do some searching on, what's it called? Event sourcing and CQRS, you're likely to land in a lot of places that talk in domain-driven design lingo. And there they talk about aggregates and read models. And the notion of the aggregate, in my opinion, violates fundamental design principles in that it tries to do too many things. So aggregator, a lot of people hear that and assume it's referring to aggregates, which it isn't. And then an aggregator itself is fundamentally not any different. It is a component. An aggregator is a component that consumes messages and writes view data, whereas a typical component would consume messages and write other messages and possibly do other side effects. So I get questions that are like, oh, if I want to do X, would I use an aggregator for that? But the X has nothing to do with consuming messages. And so I think what's lost is that an aggregator is just a component that happens to write, in this system's case, to a Postgres table. But anyway, that's the rationale behind that. So down here, I'm just doing a test that makes sure that we're doing registration of a new user, which of course, you don't want to roll that on your own willy-nilly, but the effort we're doing here is just straight up port the book code and not re-examine its design decisions. Yes, I am not displaying my chat because I don't know how to do it. typically that's what I've been doing, is reading questions as they pop up. I guess I didn't this time. So I would also love to get together with you and swap setup things. We could do that in March. Of course, the computer that I have this running on, I won't take up to the meetup because I have a separate machine that runs the streaming bit, and then my laptop just feeds into a video capture card on it. But yeah, I definitely want to compare notes now that I've been doing this for a while. Thanks again for all your help getting it set up. Oh no, let's see. Did you try to do a link? Yeah, sorry. I've got an overly zealous bot called Nightbot that stops everyone from posting links that I probably need to configure better. Okay. Do you then just pull in? Right. Okay. So then you go to that in a browser, and then you do a browser source in OBS to get the stream and then place it on screen. Okay. All right. That's not too bad. It does require... Oh my goodness. Yeah, duh. Okay, so... excuse me. I just open a browser and then go to Twitch, which is how I'm reading your messages right now. And I could have made a browser source out of this browser window that has Twitch loaded on it. That's silly. All right. I'm going to go back to describing the code that I'm doing now, because I feel silly right now. That didn't occur to me. All right. So now that we have this test showing that our form has the correct hidden value in it, what prompted all of that was I wrote a message to the message store. And one thing, I probably ought to get a different database viewer for the stream. I don't know how legible this one is, but it doesn't respond to the typical command plus that you can do on a Mac to just make the font size bigger. But we wrote this command with a nil stream identifier, which isn't what we were after. So wrote a test to make sure that the value that should have been there is now in the registration page. So let me just refresh that. And I can see that the value is located right there. So I'm going to come in here and just re-register. That's the screen we expected. Then go back to the message store. Wow, that's a lot of those because I kept running tests. But anyway, the 0728, I remember seeing that in the page's form, which we can't see anymore. So let's try that one more time. And 40BB, come here, refresh. Nothing there. So we're expecting message 32 to have 40BB as its starting characters. I think I just clicked that twice. Neat. My endpoint is not idempotent there, or the page is not. So that'll need fixing. It wouldn't end up making a difference though if those two commands made it in there because of the way the component is written. But neat. So the command showed up. And that's fantastic. So for those of you who are joining us for the first time, what's fantastic about that is I have a Ruby on Rails application writing to MessageDB, and it was a bit of a slog to get to this point. But there it is. The message is there. And if we had this component written, it could pick up that command and actually handle it. I can get the book code running to do that though. So let's see here. We come back to the books code, and this would be in the identity component. So let's just go to the index of that real quick. And this is where we would handle the register command, and we would extract the identity ID. I renamed this in the port that I'm doing from user ID to identity ID. I think that is the only change I would need to make to pull that off. So let me open this load identity. The convention in the book was that if you had a load X function, it would fetch from the message store the corresponding entity and stash it back into this context object that rolls down through the promise chain. I was really enamored with pipelines when I did this. So load identity here. That's where we stuff the projection as well. Yeah, there's some issues with the way I structured the code in the book. But it extracts the identity ID from the context, builds the stream name, projects it, stashes it as identity. That is right. That's what we want to see. So then we would ensure not already registered, and then we would write the registered event, which would be this function here, and command. Okay, so this would also need to be identity ID right there. And then the send command would not have a identity ID in it. That's fine. So if we go set software, practical microservices, code, video tutorials, and all of our databases should be running. So this should just be an npm start. We might end up with a crash because of the malformed one right there. So I'm going to do something you typically can't do with a message store. And that is to go delete a message. Can do that locally, of course, but not in a deployed scenario. Let me close. How do I close this? Close connection. All right, cool. Let me fire up this component. Oh, something crashed. What is it? Value must be an array of bytes. That's odd. All right, in the write send command at line 27. I wonder if there are some other mismatches with how the event itself is formed between the old and the new. So let's open, I need to go back up to the old application layer and get the write register command. So we had user ID, email, and password hash. That one got renamed to identity ID, which I don't think would be a problem. Email, identity ID, and password hash. But which message did it fail on? So we can actually go see that. What is that? Is that a message ID or... That would be over here in this right column. 1A05 does not look like a message ID. That might be the ID of the consumer. No, it is not. Huh, what is that identifier there? Type error. Value must be an array of bytes. At line 27. So it's a problem making this UUID v5, which we make from the email. I suppose we could just say what is the identity that we're looking at. I mean, some of those were input from a test I was running, and so it wasn't fully formed. Oh. Error is the function. Oh, ID null and email is null. Well, that's not good. Oh, we would expect that to be null at this point because there are no events. I know this works when it's all running by itself. It's the integration between the two systems that's not going as planned. It makes sense to me that the ID is null, but not that the email is null. These all have emails on them. What about the one that we wrote? Oh, it does not. Interesting. So when we submit it from the form, it's coming back blank. Well, that's not good. That means our form is wired up incorrectly. Which would be in the Rails code, not in the Node code. So let's have a look at that. That test we don't need, and this model we don't need. So it just has something to do with the form. So let's have a look at that. I'm going to close this test on the right. Form.text field is an email. Well, let's see what register. I guess we can do a binding.irb there. Is that legit? It is very nice. So what is our, let's type in the right window there. Register user. You do have an email on you. So is there something? Well, let's let that run and then have a look at the command that we wrote. Wow, that's a lot of. Oh, those are produced by the component we were running. So this is the one we just submitted. It does have an email on it that got propagated. Maybe that was just some weird thing from an unsaved file. Here, let's do what always makes everything better. And we will just start with a fresh database here. And let's see, Rails DB create so that Rails doesn't complain. We run our server. And then that will have crashed the component that we were running, I'm sure. Because it couldn't find its database anymore. That's fine. So let's come here and go to register again and try this. Why aren't you responding? Oh, because I still have that binding.irb in there, which pauses execution because I didn't save it. There we go. All right, so we got to there. We come to here. We have an email, an identity, and a password hash. Great. So now we can rerun the old code here. And we still get an error. Why is that? Value must be an array of bytes. But somehow we still got... Oh, right, because it crashed when it was trying to send the email. Yeah, if you change interfaces on things, you have a bad time. So, write register command. don't need that. Command.data.identity ID is what we want. And so where is our write registered event? Is that not what it's called? Identity ID. Wait, why is it called? Sorry, I want this one. Identity ID is there. But then we go to call it user ID because I didn't change this name, did I? Identity ID, like so. And then the stream name would also need to come from the identity ID like that. So that's a definite problem that we're having there. That would explain this message looking incorrectly. So let's stop that. I'm going to delete that message again. Restart. Now we have a properly formed registered event. That looks right. But I'm still confused as to what it's reading differently when it goes to write the send command here. No, oh, come on. Let's do this correctly. So when we write the registered event, we build said registered event. And we just write it. Well, where is context event coming from? Oh, it's another handler, duh. Right, so it's still trying to find the user ID here. This is something, one of those things that I think Eventide makes clearer than my JavaScript code does when you're looking at the wrong thing. Here I've got both the command handlers and the event handlers crammed into one file. And yeah, those could be separated into different files. And so maybe it has nothing to do with Eventide and just the way I happened to organize the code here. So let's close that. And then we would load the identity, which should already work. And then we would ensure it's not sent, which is just a check on the projected value, render the registration email, and write send. I think that this will work now. It was another handler that was failing, not the one we were looking at. Oh, it didn't work. What did I do wrong this time? Oh, okay, never mind. The identity portion of it worked, but there is an issue with this unrelated thing, undefined bindings. Right, there's what I called aggregators, a view data component that also would be looking for the wrong name there. That should be identity ID. And this would also be identity ID. And you would be identity ID. I think that is all. There we go. Okay, neat. So send and send. I don't have the send email component running in the book code because we ported that one over to Eventide. So this would be the send email component, and we should just be able to do a script start here. And now we have a record that the email was sent. Okay, great. Oh, I renamed a data point in the message. And I wasn't actually going to run the whole thing. But AJ, you were here and I was like, I got to make a good show here. And I did so without thinking through all the places that would need to change if I changed the name of that attribute. We got there in the end. So, and in fact, we can take this even further, right? Because we have the user credentials aggregator written as well. I already had a window open to there, didn't I? So we could script start this one. Oh, that one didn't take, did it? What's wrong with it? Violates not null constraint. Null value in ID. Oh, I bet. So that when you said 20 minutes, I immediately thought 2 hours, meaning that I was going to be done in 2 hours rather than in 20 minutes. Next level project management hat on. Nice. Yeah, I've been going for a little bit here. It's a day off work for me today, so that's why I'm streaming a little bit longer and later than normal. But I'm going to wrap it up with this, and then I mean, I don't know if you're ready to start your stream yet, but the renaming of that event property, or that message property, I did that after I did this component. So this would need to say identity ID here. Grab a drink and update my titles. Be right back. Sounds good. So if we fix that, you're still crashing, are you? Undefined method identity ID for identity component messages events registered. Well, that's a bummer. Identity ID, there we go. And now the user credentials aggregator should work. There we go. Reload. Need to open the view data. Oh, that didn't work. Why did that not work? Probably because it's not running. So let me grab my Docker Compose file here, and don't run MessageDB. I need to update the versions on those as well. Restart Uconnect 2. Still not going to work if we do that. CD such software, practical microservices, user credentials aggregator, and we need to run the view data database, Docker Compose. I'll just do up real quick. Error. Interesting. So if I go to the applications, in here I have a Docker Compose file. And how did I set this up? Oh, look at that. MessageDB is on 543354, which means I need another port for the view data database. So let's set U to 5434, and that will require a change in the view data database settings, like so. Now we should be able to run that and run this, and it failed. Why did it fail? View data DB does not exist. Right. In our Docker Compose. We renamed that to the more generic view data DB. So Docker Compose rm-sf and the Docker Compose up. Oh, still not going. Relation user credentials does not exist. Should exist, right? Because when we start, oh, we're not running the SQL stuff. We were. So let's see, what would that be? Schema dot call. There we go. Wow, that was a bit of a tangent I wasn't expecting to go down. My connection information is probably now incorrect. So let's come here and edit this. Used to be 5434 now, and the database is now view data DB. Oh, I don't think that's saved. There's that. So in theory as well, localhost 2001. This is the node version of it. So if I went to log in, relation user credentials does not exist. Just got in. It's my teller to figure out how to get up on the counter. Grabbed a large knife in one hand and was about to slash the other. Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a tender mercy. Dang. My heart would be racing quite a bit if that had just happened. Glad the kiddo's okay there. There is this video game that came out a number of years ago. It's a 2-player game, and one of you plays a baby and the other of you plays an adult, and you're in a house, and the one playing the baby has the objective of getting the baby killed, and the other one has the objective of keeping the baby alive. And it's just like scary how realistic the scenario for that game is. Yeah, they are. Apparently, Nightbot doesn't like cats either. I need to figure out how Nightbot works a little bit better. I'm guessing you're laughing at the description of that game. Wait, what? What was the... What's what? The message you sent me. There's someone in the room with me off screen. Oh, okay. She's going to write what she was saying. Anyway, I've never played it. I've just seen videos of it. I don't even remember what it's called. So video game, baby tries to kill itself, parent must stop. What's it called? Who's Your Daddy? It's called. Yeah, this is the game. It's like there's the baby crawling towards power outlet. Somehow I ended up at the Dutch version of this website. Or whatever. Anyway, yeah, I've never played it. But this game, oh, wait. Wait. Hang on one second. I really would like this to work before hanging up today. 5434, yeah. No, I'm sorry. I'm looking at the wrong... I want the book code, and you are connecting to the wrong database now. Right. So we go to... .env, I think it was. And yes, you need to be connecting to... Ooh, this is going to be a bit of a challenge. You would connect to that. So let's go ahead, close you, restart. Please. Oh, why did you not like that? Okay, yeah, sorry. I'm not going to be able to get this running without some more replumbing work here. With the introduction of the Rails application, I now need 3 databases, whereas the book code was written expecting 2. We had just the message store, we had just the view data database. Rails introduces now the Rails controlled database, and I'm not going to run those together. That's something we went over on the stream a while ago, because Rails wants to own its database. It does not play well when there's something else writing to the same database. That's fine. But that does mean that the application layer now has to be aware of 3 databases. Or wait a second, no, I could kind of hack this together real quick. If I go to source config, yes, and just shut off all the aggregators. How do we do that real fast? By coming down to this aggregators array and commenting out all of the other ones. I think that should run safely now. Okay, cool. And so then we can resubmit and we're logged in. So neat. I've got some of this application still running in Node. That's why it's on port 3001. I have some of it working within Rails. We've moved over the homepage. No, we've moved over the registration page and the registration complete page. That all submitted to Rails, which wrote a command to message DB. Oh, cool. Yeah, I will type that in. Let me just do my wrap up here. So Rails writes the command to message DB. The identity component is not yet ported over fully to Ruby. We have part of it, but not all of it. Did some hacking in the Node code to deal with the changed attribute. The identity component picked up the registration and wrote the registered event. Started up the send email component in Ruby, which did all of the sending there. Started up the user credentials aggregator in Ruby, so that aggregated the submitted registration information to the user credentials table, which the Node side was then able to read when we went to log in. So these pieces are coming together. I have a little repo maintenance to do with the changes I made in various places. I'm not going to do that on screen. Plus, I want to go see AJ's stream. Thanks for stopping by, AJ. And I'm going to go there now. Anyone else who is present, stick around. AJ's a cool guy and doing some cool stuff. In JavaScript, though, it's not Ruby. Not that matters. Good stuff is good stuff, whatever the language is. So I'm going to sign off from this stream. Thanks for coming, everyone. Till next time, happy coding. And here we go over to AJ. In 5 seconds. Good stuff.